Metadata. Metadata is a set of data that gives description or information regarding other data. Its simplest words, it describes other data that needs broadening of information for better usage. The data that has been gathered by the analyst will be then again examined, wherein the data will be expanded and given another description. The two most commonly known as used category of metadata are descriptive and structural metadata. Descriptive metadata relates to piece of information and gives you actual detail about it. Structural metadata relates to many things and tell you how similar bits of information are stored and what they mean. See, for example, an identification card. When you picture an image of an ID, its mostly notable feature is the name and the photo of the owner on it. But when you try to explore to the other text printed in it, you will see the contact number, the birthday, address, and the other significant information of identity of the person. Every police department has its own set of procedure that outline the way of how a crime was conducted. Although, this procedure will usually stored in the analysis memories. It is important to write it down for documentation, for it could be still be useful for the other reasons. They include consistent data handling and cleaning procedures, guidelines for sharing work with others, keep track of product and files created, and reducing duplication of effort. The above-mentioned written procedures are also significant tools for new analysis.
I will now discuss geocoding. So here are the topics I will be tackling later. Definition, introduction, importance, geocoders, levels, and little bit of process since it will be thoroughly discussed later by another member. Let's start. What is geocoding? Geocoding is the process of assigning latitude and longitude values to address information. So this is the basic definition of geocoding. We all know what an address is, but here's a quick discussion about it. It is a collection of information that describe location of something. An example is your own address, where you live and where I live. My house number 111, then my street, J. Garcia Street, my barangay, which is Poblacion, and my municipality, which is Plaridel. So geocoding is converting this address composed of words, something which has more number than words. Since geocoding involves latitude and longitude, quick fact, there are two kinds of address, the relative and the absolute. Relative address contains adjective words such as behind, after, beside. Example, beside the store, after this landmark, etc. Absolute address, on the other hand, contains the specific address, which is what I have mentioned of earlier. The house number, street name, and such. Next, the introduction. Let me compare geocoding and geotagging, since people sometimes commonly mistake each other as the another. Geocoding, as what I have explained earlier, is the conversion of a human-readable address into a machine-readable address or machine-findable address or geographic coordinates. While geotagging is something similar like geocoding, it is often used in various medias like photographs. Geotagging also involves latitude, longitude, as well as altitude and place. It is commonly in a photo of the people to know where the photo of exactly taken. Moving on, reverse geocoding. If there is geocoding, of course there is a reverse of it. It is a simple converting back the numbered address into a human readable or understandable address. There is an example. Take a look at the PowerPoint. Next, importance. Why do we need geocoding? First, for accuracy. Workers like deliverymen, businessmen, needs exact location in order for them to work fastly and easily. Hence, this method of addressing is the best for them. Since geocoding is very accurate, a specific and non-vague way of giving address. Second, for convenience, it is self-explanatory. If there is geocoding, then there is convenience for the part of people who need a more detailed and unique address. This kind of address is commonly used in the industries like internet and the police in finding people. Third, last is for edge. Learning how to geocode is an edge, since it is a bit hard process to do and learn, but it will be great help to almost everything. The coders laid down by the PowerPoint are the example of the companies who are geocoders, more on apps that are for finding location. Next is the levels. There are certain levels of geocoding. The point level, which is more accurate than the street level. The street level, which is matched against large street segment range. The zip code level, which return the centroid of the past zip code area. And lastly, the zip plus 4 code level, which is subdivision of zip codes. Next is the geocoding process. Now, this topic will be discussed thoroughly later by group member, but here is a brief explanation. Step 1 is to enter the original address. Next is the parse the address of dissect it into address elements such as house number, municipality, then create representation for the address elements like word Washington into Wash. Next step is locate the elements in all possible locations in the address locator. Now that you have located potential matches, score those and find the one that best match address elements. Then there you have it. You now have a geocode address. Thank you for listening.
Tubular data is a sort of road items and systems that compose of data, files, HTML tables, and field formats that's used in every companies. It is a road places where we can easily find our data and our information that we need. Tubular data is also includes its time, date, frames for easy access, because having tubular data consists of compact list of details which we can find our files or the important data that we need to find, and it will have no hassle because we are just only clicking on the code so we can find out our data. Here are our simple examples of our tubular data. When we scan our tubular data feature samples, there are year, month, day, time, latitude, magnitude, depth, and shape. For us, when we are using our geosiding, we can clearly track and trace our data. When we use the tubular data on our law enforcement, the informations on the tubular data contains the data of police records, addresses, and various geographic variables. And also examples of our tubular data that included are call service, crimes, incident reports, citations, sex offenders, and arrests. And this information are also included and having their address, grid, and bit. For us, when we are use geocoding, we can track and trace the preferences.
Geographic data. What is geographic data? Geographic data, it refers to a data that is tackles about the location bound to the locations and can be used on many types of methods. What is geographic data used for? Geographic data determines the populations of every country. It can scan and compare economic status, average age, and their identities in every country. What are the three types of geographic data? The three basic types of vector data are points, lines, and polygons area. Each point, line, and polygon have a spatial reference frame, such as latitude and longitude. How do we get geographic data? You can gather geographic data on global positioning system and geographic information systems as primary source of data gatherings, and we can consider as secondary resources using social media platforms. This is data that can be displayed on a map such as streets, census tracts, parcels, and buildings. Here are the examples of geographic data. Specific to law enforcement are police districts, beats, or grids boundaries.
So good day, I'm BRIONES from BSc 3A. Now we're going to tackle the topic of geocoding process. Geocoding process is a process of bringing together the tabular and the graphic data. Geographic unit analysis is spatial characteristic within the data to locate map such as the address, zip code, and the grids. The tabular data contained in a table and a list of records. Among with information about the records contains address and some other types of variables. Geographic data is the data that can be displayed into the map such as the address, census tracts, parcels, and buildings. The purpose of geocoding is to assign the tabular data to a location on the Earth's surface to visualize the spatial characteristic of the data. In order to geocode electronically or manually, there must be a common geographic units of analysis. In law enforcement, address is primarily used as the geographic unit of analysis to which tabular data are geocoded. In case of geocoding, the geographic data used in geocoding are called reference data, since the geographic data are used to represent the tabular data. The following discussion is the geocoding process. We have 5 basic steps of geocoding process. The first one is prepare the geographic and tabular data for geocoding. Second, specify the geocoding parameters. And third, geocode. Fourth, review the result. And 5, if necessary, specify parameters and geocode again. The first one that we're going to tackle is the first step, which is prepare the geographic and tabular files for geocoding. This is the most important and the most consuming time among the 5. We have 2 in this step. We have tabular and geographic data. Tabular data primarily consists of calls for service, crime arrest, and accident area. Information include field information, sex, registrant information, and intelligence information. In tabular data, the most important aspect of this system related to geocoding is that they reduce the need of manual data entry and provide clear and consistent rules to ensure that the data is reliable and valid. Graphic data. In geographic data, data types may be used as a reference layer to the street, such as Census Bureau and Tiger Line commonly used it. Street files commonly called as a center line files because they depict the center by line segment. The details of curves and alleys is not depicted in the center line. I will show you a map that is the example of a center line file. Addresses is recorded from, and to, ranges from the left and right side of the street. In addition, address ranges street segment can be depicted by several variables, and this is street name, types, prefix, and suffixes. The prefix and suffixes used to store information such as quadrant. The following tables with highlighted examples will show you the additional ways in which addresses are found in geographic databases. The next step that we're going to discuss is the step 2, the specify geocoding parameter. It is to determine how geographic units will be matched successfully. Selection of which reference layer would be the most effective used for geocoding. In law enforcement, the most information is geocoded to the street reference layer. For example, the street centerline file to pin the map residential Bulgari in an entire city. It means that you will target the whole map of the city and you will pin where the location of Bulgari is. On the other hand, one can use one pin to pin the place of Bulgari, the specific place of Bulgari, so that you will determine the block and the area which is the accident is usually occur. Step 3. Geocode. Once the parameters are all set up, it's just one push of the button to start the geocoding process. The common approach is to place the address along the street within the range of the street numbers. And this is the example. When an incident is geocoded, the point is placed relative to propulsion length, derived from the ratio of difference between maximum and the minimum address. This type of geocoding is often used to create graduated color thematic maps. Step 4. Review the result to determine whether the geocoding process is successful and how it becomes successful. Make sure that it is successful because there might be an error while encoding, missing or incorrect address, errors in town, maybe the town is renovated, street files are generally manually updated, they also prone to data entry errors. Step 5 is necessary only if the geocoding process is not 100% done. The error seems to happen most of the time with law enforcement data. In geocoding process, make sure that it is 100% done to avoid error and get the clear and concise data.
Good day everyone, I'm REMUS from BSC 3A, one of the member of Group 4, and I'm here to discuss all about single symbol mapping or maps. But before to proceed, let's talk about crime mapping and other history of this topic. Yun, what is crime mapping? Crime mapping can be traced back to the earliest 1800 when social theories began to create maps to illustrate their theories and research about crime. One of the police department that can use mapping is the New York City in the 1900s and consisted of simple wall maps in which is push fill. Then in early 1800, the social theories indicate the single symbol point and graduated map. Then 1900s, the New York City Police Department and others also use the single symbol point maps, which is pin maps. Then 1960s up to 70s, the first computer-generated maps of crime. The 1980s, desktop computers available for mapping but with limited. And let's proceed to the single symbol map. What is single symbol maps? Single symbol map, which is individual, uniform symbol represent features such as the location of stores, roads of or state. For example, showing school location and street. Then, an important thing to keep in mind about single symbol maps is that a GIS. What's GIS? GIS, Geographic Information System, places all points on such a map that share the same address directly on top of one another, making it impossible for the maps to show how many points there really are. For example, if a middle school and elementary school share the same address, the GIS will have placed two gray circles in the same spot. So there is no way someone looking at the map can see the school in the area. This drawback of single symbol mapping, particularly relevant for the mapping of crime and other police data. Why? Because crime and other police-related incidents often occur repeatedly at particular location. Because of this, crime analysis use single symbol mapping primarily to display geographic information in which there is no overlap. They employ other types of maps to convey information about multiple incidents at particular location. In addition, single symbol maps are not useful when analysts are dealing with a large amount of data. Right? Look at the picture. Imagine, with a location of 100 is full marked. The point would overlap and the map would difficult to read. Then, in a single symbol map, the advantage when you use it, the advantage of single symbol map is too easy to communicate the location of crime within patterns to police personnel. Then the disadvantage is limited only in small amount of data. Thank you po at God bless.
So now we're going to talk about graduated mapping. Graduated mapping consists of aggregating data into groupings that are displayed into the map. Graduated mapping has a disadvantage and advantages. The advantages of graduated mapping is the size of geographic features doesn't matter when you shade by color. People tend to look or pay attention to the larger picture of it. The disadvantages of graduated mapping is density ratio rates are hard to show in this map and hard to tell the relationship between the variables. In graduated size map, the size of the symbol used for point and line feature to reflect their value. Here are the examples of graduated mapping.
Good morning everyone. Our topic for today is all about graduation by size. What is graduation by size? Graduated size mapping is the process by which data are summarized so that symbols, point or line features are altered in size to reflect frequencies in the data. In other words, in this type of map, more than one incident at a given point or line is represented with a larger symbol or figure 1. One drawback is that oftentimes, the size of the symbol or line is too difficult to distinguish and actual value associated with that symbol is not clearly displayed. In addition, similar to single symbol mapping, this type of map is most helpful with smaller amount of data, since too many incidents make the map unclear and difficult to read. So this is the map. Ayan nga, sinasabi kanina na mahirap basahin dahil puro point lang. Kung makikita nyo, ayan lang yung basihan nila. Pag maliit yung dot, ibig sabihin mababa yung crime. Pag medyo malaki yung dot, ibig sabihin medyo mataas. And then, siyempre pag malaki yung dot, mas mataas na yung crime. And then, itong map naman na to is more useful when mapping law enforcement tabular data when the scale is smaller. So, tingnan natin to. Ang ginamit na crime dito is robbery. Ang ibig sabihin daw, pag maliit yung dot, is 1% lang ang nangyayaring crime. Tapos pag medyo malaki naman, 2 to 3%. And yung sumunod na mas malaki is 4 to 5%. And then yung pinakamalaki is 6 to 7. Ito ay graduated points. Ito naman ay graduated lines. Yung walang kulay green dito, ibig sabihin 0 to 5% lang ang nangyayaring crime of, dito, number of drug incident. Tapos pagka malabo naman, ibig sabihin 5 to 10%. And then yung malinaw is 10 to 15. Yung sumunod na mas malinaw, 15 to 20%. And then, yung sobrang linaw naman is 25 or more. Yan, makikita natin yung pinagkaiba ng dalawang map dito. Ito, sabi nga kanina, mahirap basahin, difficult to read. Tapos sumunod naman, ito naman yung mas madaling basahin. Kasi may mga scale na. And then, that's it po. Thank you.
Good day. My name is Angelica de Luna from BSc 3A and one of the member of Group 4. I will discuss the graduation by color. In graduation by color, or the graduated color map, it either uses point, line, or polygon feature that are shaded according to their statistical formula, custom setting, and unique value. To simplify, in graduated color map, it uses the symbol point, line, or polygon that are altered in color to reflect a particular value of the picture. Graduation by color is also known as the chlorophet mapping. So, what is chlorophet mapping? Chlorophet mapping or chlorophet maps are used regularly in policing and are most useful for representing large data sets such as annual calls for service by police reporting area or crime rate per population. The law enforcement variables in using the graduation by color include shading by time and date, by priority, by crime type, by several crimes at a location or an area, and by crime rate per an area. There are several approaches in classifying or grouping information when creating a graduated color map. And these are the most commonly used in creating this graduated color map: the unique value, the natural break, and custom. Number 1. Unique values. Unique values are classes that are based on unique data. With unique value, the classification are based on unique values that is selected by the user. In this example, schools are shaded by type. In this sample, the graduated color is used to depict the sequence of events on an arson case. Number 2. Natural breaks. In natural break, it identifies the natural breakpoints inherent in the data by using statistical formula. This classification is the default in most geographic information system programs and is used frequently by crime analysts. And lastly, number 3, custom. Custom are classes that is determined by the user and are not based on the data. With this classification, the user manually set the ranges based on the data.